Hi, I'm Rhonda Buss, and welcome to the fourth episode of Sewbusted's Material Witness. I am super excited today because we have a celebrity.
Oh, goodness.
Ellen March, the editor of Sew News. I was so excited when she agreed to be interviewed, and so I'm excited about bringing this to you today. Ellen, tell us a little bit about what you do. She actually juggles lots and lots of things.
Yeah, I do. So I'm the content director for a number of sewing brands. We have Sew News, as you know, Creative Machine Embroidery, Sew It All, Burda Style in the US, Martha Pullen, and the Internet Embroidery Club. So together we make the sewing division of F&W Media, and yeah, I kind of manage the day-to-day goings-on and guide the content decisions.
Very impressive. And if you look at her, she's only like 12 years old. So it's pretty amazing that someone so young could be juggling so much. So how did this all come about for you?
Well, you know, I feel like sewing is in my blood. My grandmother was a seamstress in her little town, and my mother has sewn, you know, since I can remember.
But let me just interrupt you real quick, because I always like quaint and fun little stories. And she left out one little ingredient of her grandmother that I think is kind of special, like where?
Oh, okay. So my grandmother was in North Dakota. And yeah, she would hem the pants of everyone, you know, the farmers in the neighboring towns and whatnot, and make formal gowns and just do general alterations, really. So, and I mean, that kept her busy every single day. And I always would joke with her because she had these giant kind of calluses. And I finally figured out when she was older that they were calluses from her scissors.
Oh my goodness.
And actually when I started working here and I saw all this technology and like electronic scissors and things like that and rotary cutters, not that that's, you know, technology per se, but I just kept thinking, man, I wish my grandmother was still alive because her life could be so much easier.
When she said calluses, I actually was thinking maybe she was like me and like sews through her finger every once in a while.
Oh, I'm sure that happened also.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
So anyway, so sorry to interrupt, but
oh,
so
that's okay.
Your grandmother sewed?
Yeah, and my mother sewed, and I think I started learning about when I was 8 years old. I can't really remember the age, but that's just what I tell people. But I would make matching shorts and scrunchies, so that ages me a little bit, I think. That'll tell you how old I am. But yeah, the scrunchies were a big thing. Everything had to coordinate. I would like to say that I helped her with some formal gowns, but I don't really think I helped other than picking out patterns. So that's kind of where I learned. And then when I was in college, I actually made a purse that I was wearing, and somebody stopped me and said, "Where did you get that?" And I was like, "I made it." And she was like, "Oh, well, I'll give you $20 for it." And I was like, light bulb moment. I think I can make money doing this. So I literally sold the purse I was wearing to this person, and then I made like 5 more, and I would go to school and try to sell them. And it was pretty successful for a little, you know, not only did I make a little cash, but I got to sew, which was the most fun part of it. So when I graduated from college, I tried to have a little sewing business of my own. It was very difficult, and websites back then were not as easy to start up as they are now. I always say, you know, if only there were Etsy back then, but I probably wouldn't be where I am today if there was.
I think she was still running things through the sewing machine. So yeah. We're all that much more fortunate that Etsy didn't exist then.
Right. Well, at any rate, kind of fast forward, And I was looking for a job, really any job that would get me out of waiting tables and, more sewing time and this and that. And one day I just decided to look for sewing jobs on the internet instead of looking for executive assistant positions and things of that nature. I just started searching for things that I love to do instead of things that I thought that I could do. And I stumbled on a job listing for a graphic designer for Sew News magazine in Golden, Colorado. And I happened to be living in Golden, Colorado. And I thought, I can't believe there are sewing magazines, first of all. And secondly, I can't believe there's a sewing magazine in my backyard. So I'm not a graphic designer. Still, I'm not a graphic designer by any means. So I wrote a letter to the editor-in-chief and I said, I'm not qualified for this position, but here's what I can do. And I would love to meet with you, and this could be my dream job. And a week later, she called me and said, I need an editorial assistant, and why don't you come in and interview? So that's how it started 12 years ago. I was hired as the editorial assistant for Sew News, and it just grew from there.
And really, this is a story of, the branch not falling too far from the tree, because her father is an editor.
Yep.
And her mother is extremely creative, so it's kind of like the best of both worlds coming together in one child. and now here she is, like she told you, with all the different magazines and the outlets that they have through F&W Media, that she's juggling it all and doing it beautifully.
Thank you. Well, I have a really great team that I work with, so I definitely cannot take all of the credit.
I think you can take a lot. I think
No.
Yeah.
They are really, really great. We work really collaboratively, and I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have them out there with their feelers and checking out what's trending and doing all that hard work.
I will say, after for 3 years, I did the sew along articles for Sew News, and it was always just a pleasure to work with everyone that I worked with. That I often wondered how it was that you found such great people that were always so nice. So not only are they creative, they're very nice and fun to be around, and it's a nice working environment. And I think the proof is in the pudding when you see the magazine. And I told Ellen that actually the magazine is how old? 36?
36 years.
36 years old, so that's pretty amazing for a magazine to be around for that amount of time. And I was an early subscriber, as it turns out, and I subscribed for a while, and the magazine just took a turn that I wasn't interested in, and so I no longer subscribed. And then 4 years ago, they had a casting call in Puyallup for...
It was for Sew It All
Sew
TV.
It All. Sew It All TV, that's right. And I should have remembered that. And anyway, I went to Puyallup and did my little dog and pony show, and I ended up winning that, and then that led to me doing the sew-alongs, which I thought was really quite ingenious on your part, because no other magazine was doing anything like that at the time. I don't think they are still. I don't think so. Now I'm no longer doing that, but that's not a problem. It frees me up to do things like this, which is great. And the magazine has now evolved into, I think you're doing 18 sew-alongs per year?
We're doing 12.
12.
But then we're doing 12 that are in the magazine, but then we do kind of offshoot sew-alongs. We call them, what do we call them? Drop-in sew-alongs. We kind of crash some sew-alongs here and there. Because, that's what we're really here for, is to help you through the process of sewing.
Right.
And make sure that it's fun and that you're getting all the tips and all the shortcuts and things that are going to make it faster and more fun and just easier in general. So that's what I really like about the sew-alongs.
one of the things that I like about them is that it introduces you, because the sew-alongs are all independent pattern companies, and there's a lot of them out there, and it's hard to find some of the patterns, because how can you find everything? And so I think the sew-alongs give you the opportunity to be introduced to new patterns and to see the style, see how it's made, because you can see that process during the sew-along and then decide if it's something that you want to do or not. And so I think it's a win-win on both parts. It's for the independent pattern company, for the magazine, and for the consumer, that it works so well together. So anyway, so you became the editor of Sew News eventually, and then took on everything else.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And for a while they did have the television program Sew It All. Keeping our fingers crossed that it'll come back again. It'd be nice if it did. It was really a nice program, and one of the things that I thought was rather special about the program is, rather than just getting a little tidbit of something from maybe 2 or 3 or 4 different things, the program focused on one project.
Yeah, we kind of started it as kind of like the 30-minute meals of the sewing world. That was the first idea, actually. And then I quickly decided that there's not a lot you can actually make in 30 minutes. So it became more of what can you make in an afternoon. So it still had that instant gratification sewing to it, but it wasn't all going to be like a project this big that, you know, oh, I finished this in 30 minutes, because maybe it's not that important to be that quick. But still, just the idea that you can accomplish something and you're not going to spend, 2 weeks looking it over. We're not making a wedding gown here, is my point.
But even the so-called 30-minute projects or hour projects, I think any of us that have sewn for more than 10 minutes know that there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Really, there's
It can take you that long just to cut something out, for sure.
Right, exactly. So, to say that you could do it in an afternoon is much more appropriate than the 30-minute or the hour project. So, Ellen and I had a little bit of a conversation before we got started, and she told me some wonderful news about the magazine. With Creative Machine Embroidery is expanding.
Yeah, so, we were discussing about how there's a lot of magazines kind of leaving the newsstand these days, or you'll notice that they're becoming smaller and smaller. And ours are actually getting bigger and bigger. So that's super exciting for all of us here, and I hope for all of you guys. We just added 24 pages to Creative Machine Embroidery, which is just a ton of content. And we added 16 pages to Sew News. So, and we're not filling those with ads. I would love to fill them with ads, honestly, but we're not doing that. We're filling it with content. And
hey, it's nice to make money, but on the other hand, you want something that people actually look forward to and want to read.
Of course. Yeah, so we had, we were kind of scrambling at the beginning, like, oh my goodness, we need all of this extra content. And then we realized it was actually pretty easy to churn that out for y'all. So I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised, especially if, you're like Rhonda and you haven't seen a Sew News in a while, or even, seen a Creative Machine Embroidery for a while. You'll pick it up and it'll actually feel like something in your hands. So we're all super jazzed about that. And it really tells us that our company is investing in sewing and investing in these magazines, and that's super comforting also. So,
which is wonderful, because I was talking to Ellen about the fact that so many brick and mortar stores are closing, and I think we all lament that, and it's sad and kind of depressing, but to hear that a company actually values the magazine and what they're putting out, and and then too, so much is going to digital, and so here's something that you can actually put your hand on. And I know I talked to a lot of people about buying fabric, and so many have started buying fabric over the internet, but they miss the tactile, being able to go to the store and put their hands on it. And and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm a little bit of a Stone Age leftover. I don't read books online at all. I like a book. I like a magazine. One of the things that I love about a magazine is being able to flip through it, and then you get the aroma, that comes out, and because it's all part of the experience. And then as you flip from page to page and discover what that particular issue has. So I was really excited when she told me they were adding 16 pages to Sew News. That is just absolutely incredible and very, very exciting news. And along with that, and I said, are you sure? Are you sure you want to say this? And she said, no, I do. So along with adding those 16 pages, you're also looking for...
Yes, we are looking for some new contributors for those pages. We like to feature everyone out there that's sewing. Like you said, it's kind of like the everyman's sewing magazine, for lack of a better word. I wish I could come up with a different one. But we really like to show the practical side of sewing, and what are you sewing, and how do you make it easier and faster and better, or slower and more fun, or however you like to sew. We're bringing the news back to Sew News and bringing more stories into the magazine, so it's not simply filled with how-tos. And that's what I like to read in magazines, is more about the story behind who made this, and then I also want to know how to make it too. So if you have ideas for the stories or the projects or whatever kind of contribution you think you can make to Sew News, we'll put the information in the post.
The information will be in the post, and it'll also be below the video on YouTube, so you'll be able to find it. This is your opportunity, and I think a super exciting opportunity, because it's a very rewarding feeling when you actually see something that you've made. There it is in print, and who knows, you might get lucky and it'll make the cover. You never know. I had one that actually made the cover, which was very, very exciting. So I couldn't bring you anything to me that would be more exciting to hear than that you could actually be a contributor to both Creative Machine Embroidery and Sew News, right? So great opportunity. Get those gears rolling. And again, the information will be below, so it'll be easy for you to find and easy for you to submit. And I think it'll be exciting to see what comes out of it. So Ellen is also a mother of a son and twin girls. And I was actually here when she had not made it public yet that she was pregnant with twins. I was so happy for her, and so now they're definitely here. They're 2.5 years old, and I think Ellen is very much an inspiration in the fact that just how she came about her job at Sew News. It was really just a story of perseverance, and I know for so many of us it's easy to give up, and but she came in initially as a freelancer, and ultimately it led to a position, and then this one quit and this one went somewhere else, and then the next thing she knew is editor-in-chief. So you just never know. And but I love that story of just the inspirational aspect of just persevering and going after what she wanted. Not too long after the twins were born, was it a year after that you were diagnosed?
15 months.
Yeah, so it was I think another story of how she's such a determined individual and perseverance again. And so 15 months after the twins were born, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a very aggressive form of breast cancer.
Yep, stage 3. And HER2 positive, which meant that it was growing faster than any other type, basically, which is pretty common in someone my age. So I started treatment almost immediately after diagnosis and went through 6 rounds of chemo over the course of 4 months.
Now, let me say something. Now, this is a little bit on the lighter side, but when I had asked her about doing the interview, she said, "Oh, yes, I'm doing fine." She said, "My hair is still short. It's not growing as fast as I would like for." I think this is adorable.
I just had such long hair for so long, so
it'll come back.
Yeah, it'll come back, and it's getting there. You know, it's been an adjustment. I've never had short hair in my life. And it's so odd that that's kind of the first thing you think of when you hear that you have cancer.
We're
like,
girls.
I'm going to lose my hair.
Yes.
It becomes so important. And it wasn't as important to me as I thought. It actually became more important as it was growing back, which I know is so weird again. But I just had this buzz cut for so long that was so bizarre to adjust to. But at any rate, it's growing back. We're getting there. I'm through all of my surgeries and radiation and all the bad stuff, so we're on the other side of it now.
And she's also celebrating 1 year since chemo?
1 year since my chemo ended tomorrow, yeah.
What was the biggest struggle when you went through all of that?
Oh man, are you going to make me emotional? It's like
No,
a Barbara Walters interview all of a sudden. I mean, I think the hardest part is keeping it together for, you know, my family and my kids, and trying not to show that anything's wrong, and, you know, mostly for my kids' sake. Everybody here was absolutely amazing, and just picking up whatever pieces I was leaving behind and making sure everything was afloat. And I mean, I worked through the whole thing. I don't know how much I was actually here.
She was here because there were times that I emailed her and I was just amazed, because the email, immediately a response, and very focused, very, you know, just on about what she was doing. And I was amazed, because I thought, I don't think that I could have been that way. I think I would have fallen apart. So.
No, I think you'd be surprised. I mean, it's kind of a welcome distraction, I guess. You know, I think that if I would have given it up for that period of time, that maybe I wouldn't have been in the good mental state that I was, or that I ended up being. And that was actually some advice that I got from other survivors. They just said, you know, keep working if you can. And especially if your employer is going to be super cool about it. And mine was. I was really, really lucky in that regard. So, you know, I think that it helped, you know.
Like I said, I think she is just such an incredible inspiration to all of us, as far as being a working mom, and the fact that she took on this challenge and just tackled it, and didn't let it get the best of her. And she's still here to continue with her great ideas, and to bring us wonderful news about sewing, which is great. Now, I always like to end with something that's rather fun or funny. So, in all the years that you've been the editor of Sew News, there has to have been something that's happened that was hilarious. Maybe not so hilarious at the moment, but was hilarious later.
Okay, so I have a kind of a funny story. When we first started taping the Sew It All TV show, I had a lovely, lovely woman who is a big champion of mine. Her name is Ellen Ann Geisel. She's the author of several apron books, Apronisms, things of that nature. She is the founder of the Taiwan On Day, an apron, of course. So you can check her out there. But she was one of my guests I met her at an American Sewing Guild conference, before we started taping Sew It All. And she just has a big, bubbly personality, and I knew she would be great on the show. So I had her come and I said, make an apron. We'll teach people how to make aprons, and you can talk about the history that, she's built her life telling people about the history of aprons, and it's actually fascinating stuff.
Just goes to show you can make a career out of just about anything.
Just believe in it and you can do it.
Yeah.
So she came out and she says to me, I actually don't sew, but I created this apron pattern and I had a friend of mine do all the step outs. She said, so you're going to do all the sewing, right? I was like, no. I mean, this is like maybe 10 minutes before we're going to start filming. And suddenly I had to learn like how to create the whole thing. Now, it wasn't super complicated, so it was fine. But all throughout, she had just hilarious stories, and she did bring the personality, so I give her that. And it's like one of my favorite episodes of all time. And there was a part where we were showing how to gather some fabric to fit into the waistband of the apron. And, she was talking about how this is a really old school method that, and why people used to do it this way, on the prairie or whatever the story was, where you sew over a straight stitch with a zigzag and then pull it out, right? The string out. So I'm sewing it, and I was supposed to turn the tube of the casing or something at the same time. I don't know. It was kind of confusing the way that her seamstress had set it up.
I think it would be confusing when you're working with someone who doesn't know how to sew.
So I'm sewing it, and she's going off on this crazy story. So I'm thinking like, okay, we'll just cut to this camera, and they'll show her face, and I'll just fake my way through it, and then we'll go to the step out, right? So I'm just going to pretend like I'm sewing.
They had you the whole time.
No, it was working. It was going, right? And I go to show, we would go from the sewing machine and show what we just did. So I quickly threw it on the floor and brought up the other one. Well, she grabs it and puts it on the table and just goes, now I want to show you all what Ellen just did.
Oh, no.
She missed this part right here, and it just goes to show you that your sewing doesn't have to be perfect or something. She made it funny and hilarious. I was mortified. I was like, I am supposed to be this host of this show that knows everything there is to know about sewing, and she just called me out on my own show. Hilarious. So I was like, cut, we gotta go back. Cut, and I was not letting that fly. And she was like, oh, but we were doing so well. And even the director was like, no, I think it's good that you showed that everybody makes mistakes. And I was like, no. Cut. This is the third episode we've ever done, and we're not going there. So anyway, it's one of my favorite stories, although it is, it surpassed the blooper reel and cutting room floor, and that footage is only in my memory, and now I've shared it with you.
But now everybody across the world can know the true story.
What really happened.
That's right.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when I was a little girl, I used to enjoy watching the Flintstones. Yeah, like I said, I'm a Stone Age leftover, so why wouldn't I like the Flintstones, right? But what was always funny to me as a child was when they would be embarrassed, they would shrink down to these little 2-inch characters. And when, in a situation like that, it makes me think that, it's one of those situations where you wish you could shrink and just kind of walk away. But I think that's a fabulous story.
We had to go back and tape a whole 15 minutes or something because there was no good place to cut in. But I was like, I'm totally fine doing that.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Now, and I will tell you, when I did do the Sew It All program with Ellen, I almost had a heart attack because, with regular television shows, they don't tape anything from start to finish all in one take. And I said, well, there'll be different takes. And, oh no, you're doing this beginning to end, and that's it. all at one time. I thought, oh my God, I don't know. I don't think I can do that. But somehow you do. Ellen is great, just great at being able to direct you and kind of help you through the process. So for anyone who might be at F&W who is listening, you need to bring this gal back. You need a television show again. You definitely do, because it's a wonderful, wonderful talent that I think we're all missing out on with only having reruns on PBS.
Thank you.
Anyway, is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
I don't think so. I think we covered it. Just
I think
thanks
we did.
Everybody for listening, and
Yeah.
I hope that you'll come on the Sew News bandwagon and subscribe if you don't already.
Right, subscribe, and also send in that content. You know, this is big news. Big news for Sew News, yeah, that they're actually looking for contributors. So I think you're going to get a lot.
All right, I'm ready and waiting.
So thank you so much. Thank you, Ellen, for joining me, for agreeing to do the interview today. And again, thank you for coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know Ellen, and where she's just not just a picture in the magazine, a real person. And thank you so much. And so until next time, sew on.